There we go. There we go, Queen.
Corona head and all.
Yo, listen, girl, you see this Corona bed growing? Like, come on, man.
What up, bro? How you
I'm lo-
doing?
I'm about to be looking like I'm from Philadelphia next.
Hey, everybody. Look, I don't think I've been on nobody's live since the start of this.
Well, I'm special.
Yeah, you are. You calling people out. Talking about,
You
come
get
on, come on.
you damn right. We need to know what's going on in Chicago. A lot of
Right.
people want to know, should they still buy in the COVID-19 real estate market?
Yeah,
So, is
that city was.
Chicago in your market? Should we buy or should we rent if we are in Chicago today? Talk to us.
So I just locked up 2 deals yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So buyers are definitely still buying. I don't think it's a matter of it. Is it a buyers or a renters market? I'm representing both buyers and sellers, and the market is still stable. So it's still going forward full force. On the buy side, I always advise my clients, don't overpay. Don't overpay. And I believe that, any correction that we're going to see, happen soon is going to be a correction in markets that were overpriced, right? They were already overpriced to begin with. And it was a whole, and because I've actually seen it in markets in Chicago to where the supply and demand factor, obviously, when you have a lot of demand and less supply, it pushes the prices up to, more than what they should be. So I've seen that in certain markets here in Chicago. And unfortunately, I think those are, the areas that are going to get hit. And those are predominantly Black areas where people, not none of my clients, but people were overpaying for properties that they shouldn't have been overpaying for. So that's going to be the thing, definitely not overpaying for properties. I will say the market has slowed just due to a lot of fear. However, so every state is different, right? So in Illinois, we're actually real estate services have been deemed essential services. So I know there's some realtors like in different states that they can't even work right now, but we are working under certain stipulations. So for example, if a property is rented, you can absolutely not show it whatsoever. So I don't care if it's a single family home. I don't care if it's a multi-unit, whatever. You cannot show that property. So that property is going to sit. If tenants rights laws. Illinois is a four-tenant state, so that property is going to sit. If you're trying to go after property that's already have tenants in them, already rented out, they're doing drive-by showings, right? Open houses have been restricted. And then there are a lot of like drive-by closings, and there's even like drive-by appraisals that are even happening now too. So, there's been a lot of changes, but closings are definitely still happening. We even have a COVID addendum now that we're using with our contracts. It's a COVID-19 addendum that the Illinois Board of Realtors put together, basically stating that will allow different timelines and extensions in a contract due to the coronavirus. So, if an appraiser doesn't want to go out because they quarantined, or if this happens or that happens or whatever, there are certain stipulations in place. But yeah, no, people are still definitely going to the closing table, like regardless. Somebody said,
So,
what are the guidelines for the units? So again, if a tenant is in there, they cannot be shown right now. No occupied units by tenants are being shown. If it is a seller occupied property, then the seller can show their property at their discretion.
all right. So let's talk to me about your buyers, because you represent buyers and sellers, correct?
Yep.
So your buyers right now, the ones who are getting offers accepted during this market, are they getting homes at retail price? Are they getting them 5%, 10% below retail price? What's happening with the offers in Chicago right now? Have we seen prices start to decline in your area, Chicago?
We have not seen a decline in prices. It's still at retail. There hasn't been a huge like there hasn't been a lot of movement on the seller side. Like this is definitely a seller's market. And we've been in a seller's market for a while, and it still is a seller's market because again, supply and demand. You have a lot of buyers who are qualified to buy properties and they fighting over, a lot of properties. Two of the deals that I locked up, over the weekend, last week going into the weekend, they didn't even hit the market, right? But that's because
Mm.
that's the competition that's out there, and they are coming in at full price.
Wow. So you guys still got full price. So are you seeing a lot of bidding wars still?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Multiple offers, depending on the property, right? But yeah, I was just in a bidding war representing a buyer um on a two flat and on a condo.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So sellers are not desperate yet.
No, exactly. Because here's the thing: if a seller does not have to sell, they'll take their house off the market and just wait till this thing is over.
Mm.
Right. So it's, I would say it's a matter of the seller's motivation, and you have to look at who your sellers are too. Are your sellers regular retail sellers where they actually live in a home and these their personal residences, or are the sellers investors too? So depending on the seller's motivation, that's going to obviously be based on as far as like how much they're going to discount the properties. But the buyers are definitely still buying too. The buyers still want to buy as much as the sellers want to sell.
Okay. Okay. So when you're speaking to your buyers, are you advising them to still go in at full price, or are you advising them to, start 15%, 10% below asking to negotiate, or just like, you know what, fuck it. It's a hot property. There could be a bidding war. You need to go in as close as possible to ask. Are you still what's your tactic right now for your buyers?
So it always depends. It hasn't changed. So it's always a matter of, one, how bad do you want this property? Two, how long have we been looking for a property? Three, does this property fit, exactly what you're looking for, right? Because I deal with buyers too who, like, oh, they, because of their pride, for whatever reason, they might not want to go in at full price or close to full price, but then they'll go in lower and then regret it later, right? And then we'll be looking for other properties. And here's the thing too: I've been in, let's say for example, the two flat, right? We call it two flats here in Chicago. It's, duplex, 2 units, whatever you guys call it around the country. I've been in so many 2 units on the south side of Chicago. I know the structure to make the in and out, right? So when I see one that's different and one that stands out, I'm like, man, this one is different. This is unique. This is solid. If we are going in, going in with a strong offer, like, this is what we need to do. And then also, I mean, we can look, if it's 2 days on the market and we're showing up to look at the property and it's six call coming in, and it's six other groups of people there looking at it. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to tell you where. I don't really have to tell my clients where your offer needs to be if you want to get this property. You
So
know,
y'all, so are y'all
um,
doing virtual showings right now? Or y'all still handling business like usual?
like, yeah, like usual.
Oh shit! So
However, yeah. So it's still, yeah, it's still. However, so real estate is was deemed an essential service. We can offer virtual showings to our clients, but if they want to come out and look at the properties, which most of them still do, then you know,
you out in these
then
streets
hey,
still, basically.
yeah, oh
So
yeah,
you're
I'm
you're still
definitely
out in
still
the
out, still
streets
out in
with.
these streets. But I've been laying low a little bit too. I haven't been out doing as much. I've definitely been. I mean, you see, I'm in the house now. Um, but
Mm,
yeah, and there's some comments. There's a lot of comments. I want to address some things. Because
go
someone was
ahead.
saying something about the market slowing down, like 6 months out or so. So now the other thing though that is unfortunate, with 17 million people being unemployed, we do know that is going to lead to definitely some type of impact on the housing market. Obviously, people can't pay their bills, right? And people can't pay their mortgage. But as far as foreclosures, we're talking about at least another year, 6 months to maybe a year out, a year and a half, right? For to see like the effects of necessarily like actual foreclosures happening to homeowners, current homeowners that are in their properties that can't afford their properties. But just the market right now, As far as prices changing, due to fear, we're not seeing that in Chicago.
Interesting. So, would you consider Chicago a buyer's market or a seller's market right now?
Uh, right now, I would say it's leveling out. It's been more of a seller's market lately, but I would say it's leveling out. But then it also depends on it would be the same question. I mean, the same response as to it depends, right? It depends on the property type, where the price point, you know, all of that. But I would say it's leveling out. It's reasonable because there are some sellers too that are open to negotiate because they don't know what's gonna happen. That doesn't necessarily mean they gonna accept a low ball, but they open.
They open. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, a buyer looking in Chicago today, they contact you. Should they buy Rashauna or should they continue to rent and wait out for whatever might or might not happen?
So for one, I was actually just talking to a client of mine, who I read this briefly, but it completely, for whatever reason, I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. So who one buyer actually just cashed out on her 401k because I guess due to the COVID relief, they're waiving the penalty fee. Did you
Hmm.
know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to invest, again, I think as long as your numbers being right, you can invest. If you want to buy your own personal residence, I say buy your own personal residence. Like the deals that so April has been slow for me because a lot of stuff happened in March. I'm sorry. Yeah, so April's closings are slow for me because a lot of stuff happened in March. But the way things are picking up, like my May closings are back to back to back because, everybody was, in fear, what's going on, what's about to happen, but, and seeing what's going on with the stock market, but seeing how that really had no direct effects on real estate, people are definitely still buying. So I said, if you can afford it, your credit is intact because as far as the down payment assistance programs and all of these grants and all of these different products that are out here for you guys, like take advantage of them. Because with all of the things that are changing every single day in the lending industry, you don't know when something is going to change that's going to knock you out of that box to where you're no longer approved anymore. So I say, if home ownership is your goal, then definitely go for it.
Shout out to Rashauna Scott. Tell them how to find you if they want to buy primary or invest in Chicago.
So I'm Rashauna Scott everywhere. I'll type something in the chat so people can see me. And Matt making me come on live with my Corona hair.
Hey, we got Corona hair, Corona beards. Like, you know what I mean? I
Hey,
got
sis was talking about somebody on here was like, sis, we know you got a bonnet. Go ahead and put that bonnet
a
on.
yeah, I got the Corona hairline going right now. Like it's a mess for all of us. But we in this together. All of us. But we in this together, and that's why I wanted to do this live today because I keep getting these questions: should I buy? Should I wait? And I'm like, you know what? Who's better to talk about this than the realtors in the local markets? So
Yeah,
I
because we out here trapping in these streets, like
word because
literally.
I'm
I've
not
I've
out
been
there trapping in
negotiating
these
deals for the
streets.
past couple of days.
I'm writing loans from the comfort of my home. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all in these streets, and I think who better to discuss this than the realtors of Instagram? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
that he said
shout
the
out to
real to
you.
Instagram. Yeah, and
That's
they
a
in the
fact.
comments too, talking about what's going on with the Chicago guidelines and things like that. As far as national lending guidelines or federal lending guidelines, that's not just only city. That's not local or state. FHA and like all of those guidelines, conventional, they're national, right? So it's not just changes are not just for Chicago. Now, as far as the different down payment assistance and programs and grants, like those are um a lot of those are location specific. But okay, they like, where are you? Okay, sorry, let me put my info in. All right,
Word.
bro.
Put that info in. Rashauna Scott on IG. Make sure y'all follow her. Book a consultation. Don't be trying to slide in the DMs if it ain't about the bag because she's just gonna ignore you. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, at the end of the day, she is the source for Chicago real estate. You heard me?
All right, bro. Talk to you.
Peace. Appreciate it.